So word on the street is Marvel Comics recently announced something that maybe involves me? I'm still not totally convinced. They're doing this thing called West Coast Avengers. I don't know anything about it, but apparently one of their new characters sounded a bit familiar to you fine folks. This November, the Earth's mightiest heroes are back on the best coast in an all-new run of West Coast Avengers. Led by Iron Man, the new roster includes Spider-Woman, War Machine, Firestar, a mysteriously redeemed Ultron, and another former villain seeking redemption, Blue Bolt. That's weird. In June of 1940, Novelty Press began a 101-issue publication about a college football star turned superhero named the Blue Bolt. An experienced Marvel henchman with unrefined lightning-based abilities, Chad Braxton, aka Blue Bolt, makes his first appearance in West Coast Avengers #1. A superhuman with the power of lightning, the Blue Bolt can fly, shoot lightning from his eyes, and use a lightning gun. So Bolt's generally reckless attitude, now at an all-time high, thanks to his supercharged lightning powers, make him the perfect anti-hero for us to throw into the mix. Reckless, undisciplined, and downright rude, Blue Bolt may just be the biggest jerk in the entire Marvel universe. That's also weird. Can the Avengers whip him into shape, or will Blue Bolt's abrasive attitude and lack of morals tarnish the team's legacy forever? I guess we'll find out. I'm guessing no. So there you have it. Blue Bolt, a character I've been working on for a couple years now, is gonna be an Avenger? Or something? I don't know. Let me give you a bit of background. A couple of years ago, I started working on this cinematic universe based on abandoned superheroes of old. Hey, I can call them superheroes now without fear of getting sued, which is cool. The idea was that I would take these characters from the bargain bin of forgotten comics nobody bothered to renew the copyrights for, and try to make them work with my own modern iterations. I'm talking about heroes that no one in today's age of slick, high-budget blockbusters would ever even think of reviving. Absurd superheroes like Atlas, the Man of Might, the Spider Queen, the Catman, the Six-Gun Gorilla, and even a little remembered comic from 1940 called The Blue Bolt. College football star Fred Parrish gets caught in a freak storm in a remote mountain region and is soon given lightning powers by a sort of mad scientist called Dr. Bertov, who enlists him in a centuries-old conflict with a magical kingdom in an underground world. If that premise sounds ridiculous, that's because it is. For those interested, I spent 6 months of my life tearing through a decade's worth of the original Blue Bolt comic series and produced a little mini documentary about everything. You should check it out. I worked really hard on it. So for my Super Zeros universe, I put a bit of a spin on things. Bolt is still a star football player, but my iteration has him as a hotshot pro wide receiver, desperate to get ahead during an electrifying contract season. Bolt receives his powers just like in the original comic, but he decides to then reject the call to action and instead falls to the allure of fame and fortune, becoming a true anti-hero, using his abilities only to become the greatest self-serving athlete on Earth. Which again, is kinda weird. This superhero that was like on nobody's radar as far as I can tell until I started playing around with him has now suddenly been put in a comic book by none other than the biggest name in the business. Especially odd considering the sort of similar angle they have decided to take with the character when compared with my iteration. Now to be clear, I don't think anybody is really ripping me off. I do not have a problem with Marvel using the character. Blue Bolt is in the public domain, the whole point of which is that anybody is allowed to use him. But I don't know, it's kind of like, hey Marvel, you've got a whole treasure trove of your own copyrighted characters that you won't let anyone else use. Why you gotta dip your toes into our sandbox? So since this West Coast Avengers announcement, I've been getting all kinds of messages from people who are worried for some reason that like Blue Blue Bolt is now off limits, as if this means Marvel has somehow acquired the rights to the character. I get at least a dozen comments every single week from people thinking I'm gonna get sued for using the Catman character because DC has an iteration. That's not how any of this works. Characters and stories that have fallen into the public domain no longer have a copyright. Those original publications can be remade, adapted, or transformed by anybody, including me, including you, including Marvel. But said adaptations carry their own copyrights, which are still very much active. So since Blue Bolt is a public domain character, I can create my own original series based off that source material with its own original storylines and characters. Likewise, Marvel can decide to create their own original series for themselves. They would own everything associated with that. We're both allowed to use the same source material, the original publication. We just can't copy from each other. Am I upset that Marvel is now deciding to use Blue Bolt? Not really, even though there are some, I'll just go ahead and say, coincidental similarities between my version and theirs. I think the differences between the two will be big enough for there to not really be any beef between us. I don't know who this dude Chad Braxton is, but he ain't my Blue Bolt. There's one thing I definitely would have a problem with, and that's if Marvel decided to try and file a trademark claim on the Blue Bolt name. Copyright and trademark are two entirely different things. Copyrights protect specific creative works, stories, characters, music, movies, and currently in the United States, copyright lasts for 95 years. A trademark is usually like a name, a phrase, a word, or a logo that protects a company's brand and makes sure that people connect that name or title with one specific source. And in the United States, trademarks can last forever. So if Marvel decides to file a trademark claim on the name Blue Bolt, they could potentially prevent other people like me from using that name in a similar context. They couldn't stop me from using the character, but the name would be off limits, which would be kind of a jerk move because, I mean, it's not like anybody out there is going to spend the money to try and fight a legal battle with such a giant company with what is ostensibly just an obscure character that nobody really cares about. I'm holding out hope that they will not pull such shenanigans, but who knows? I will admit that I do find it somewhat annoying that they keep referring to the Blue Bolt moniker as if it's somehow their original creation. There's certainly something to be said about how massive companies can shape public perception. Like when a character is presented as being all new, there's definitely the chance that readers will see that and believe that Marvel's version is the original and definitive take on the character, which is not to diminish the creative work that undoubtedly went into creating a new Blue Bolt, but it does highlight how difficult it can be for smaller voices to be heard over the din of a massive publisher. So did Marvel Comics really rip my whole public domain superhero shtick off? I don't think so, but even if they did, I have always said that I do not care who decides to use some of these public domain characters too. It's not like I can call dibs on them. As long as the stories that are being told are good, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. And who knows, maybe Marvel's Blue Bolt will be absolutely fantastic. I wish West Coast Avengers well. May the best Blue Bolt win. If you're interested in more of my Super Zeros universe, check out the sensational Catman movie. We've recently released the official trailer. You can pick up The Spider Queen, available now in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. And be sure to keep an eye out for the next book installment coming out later this year. For all you creatives out there, the public domain is often an untapped goldmine of forgotten stories just waiting to be reinvented. Whether you're a writer, artist, or filmmaker, don't hesitate to dig into the past and with it, make something entirely your own. And when you're ready to share your project with the world, you will need a solid platform to do so. May I recommend this video's sponsor, Squarespace. They can help you put together a beautifully designed website in no time thanks to their all-new design intelligence, giving you access to easy-to-use tools so you can build a site that feels feels uniquely you, no coding required. Whether you're showcasing your art, story, or business, your vision will shine. Like if you want to start your own podcast, Squarespace has you covered with audio blocks. Plus, you can sell stuff from courses and videos to music or memberships. You can get started today by visiting squarespace.com to start a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch your site in full, head over to squarespace.com/AustinMcConnell to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.